Hey, my name is Dawson and welcome back to That 70s Renovation. When I moved into this house, it had been semi-abandoned for a couple years. It was owned by an investor and I don't think they ever came around here. They never did anything to it. And so it just looked bad. The weeds in the backyard were super tall and apparently it was a cat forest or something. And then the front of the house just needed a lot of love. I have done a lot of projects over the last couple years to kind of update the curb appeal. And so I've started compiling them all together into this video and one more that I will post. Today's video is going to cover everything I've done to work on the front porch concrete specifically. I think it had been painted at one time with a really cheap paint, so it was all flaking, chipping off every time you walked on it. So I tried to get that off and re-concrete it. And then I also did a little budget refresh to the front door just by painting, which is actually probably the easiest and quickest way that you could update your curb appeal. And then I also did some work to the garage door to paint that and just make it blend a little bit more into the house. So without further ado, let's get started. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe because I have a crazy goal to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And I think I can do it. I just need your help. So thank you so much for being here. And without further ado, let's get started.
Okay, this is a super exciting day because I'm finally gonna start trying to do something about my really nasty patio.
I don't know what went on with this concrete, but somebody painted it this red maroon color and it really just has not held up. So my goal is to get all of this paint off and just kind of start fresh and maybe resurface the concrete. I don't have the money right now to replace the front door and do all of that. So I'm just going to give it a quick update with some paint, put out some plants, decorations, a new doormat, and really make this feel like a brand new house.
And the first thing I'm gonna do is work on getting all this flaking paint off of here. And I'm gonna do that with my pressure washer and hopefully that works. If not, I might have to sand it.
I've said it once and I'll say it again. I am not a professional and I'm just kind of learning as I go. So I think it's important to show you all the steps that I went through to try to get this off, just so that you can learn if you ever try to do something like this, what works and what doesn't. So first thing that I tried was just straight up pressure washing the paint off. And I will say it got most of it off, especially the parts that were really flaky and the parts that just like weren't really that strong. But I will say this took a very long time. Don't let the time lapse fool you. It did take a lot of water and a lot of patience, and it did splatter these paint flakes literally all over my house. So it is a pro and a con, but there were a lot of sections that it just couldn't quite get off. So I had to get creative and try a few other things.
I couldn't get all of the paint off with just the pressure washer, so I found this stuff, which is like a paint stripper just for concrete. And I did a little test and it seems to be working. So now I'm going to brush it across the whole patio. And hopefully once I do that, then I can pressure wash the rest of it off.
If I was going to do this project again, I would maybe start by using this stripper on the whole porch because it really just loosens up the paint. And even though the pressure washer did get a lot of that paint off initially, I basically just had to pressure wash it again after doing this stripper. So maybe I could have just saved a couple steps and a little bit more water by only doing the pressure washer once, if that makes sense. But basically all I did was just kind of pour it out on the concrete. And then this is important. Make sure you use a brush that you don't care about because you are just basically gonna throw this away at the end of it.
I'm gonna let this sit for a little bit and just start to like set in and sink into the paint, and then I will come back probably with the pressure washer to spray all the paint and this gunk off. I did a little test over there and I just used a sponge to get it off, and I think the pressure washer will be even more powerful. So fingers crossed, I'm almost done with this project. Okay, I've decided I'm gonna do a concrete recap on this just to make it look a lot better. But unfortunately that means there's still a little bit of like residue from some previous glue or paint or something that I need to get off. So I'm using this diamond bit blade to hopefully just grind this down. I probably could have just used a grinder instead of the paint stripper if I was thinking about it, but lesson learned, still my first time. So I'm wearing a dust mask. I'm gonna wear glasses because this stuff goes everywhere. So wish me luck. Hopefully this works.
One thing that I will say about the angle grinder, which I don't know if you can tell from the video, it's really hard to make the concrete be completely flat when you're doing this. Maybe it's easier if you get a really larger, like industrial concrete grinder situation, but this one was kind of hard not to make indentations and dents into the concrete. But honestly, that didn't really matter because I was planning on coating over the whole concrete anyways, so I just kind of went with it and left it and then got started on the next step. The next step in the process is basically just getting all of the concrete wet. Before you do a recoat with the concrete, apparently you're supposed to wet everything down because it just helps it stick better or maybe be more even. I'm not quite sure why, but just don't forget to, to get the concrete wet. I just grabbed a spray bottle from inside and just filled it up with some water.
Okay, so like most things I do, I've never done this before, but I watched a lot of videos and I'm hoping that that will serve me well. So this is what I'm gonna use. It's called Newcrete, and it's basically a super thin layer of concrete that you put over your existing concrete, and it just makes everything look really nice and finished. And you mix it up with 4 parts of the concrete to 1 part water. And I watched one video that said it's better if you put a little bit of water in the bottom of the bucket to start, and then it just makes it easier to mix. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm measuring just with a quart thing. I should mention that before you do any of this, you should wet the concrete with water, so just spray it down a little bit. I guess it helps everything adhere better, but you just want to make sure there's no standing water on the concrete pad. And then you have about 30 minutes to work with the material once you start, so it's kind of like a mad rush to get it done, and I'll show you what I do. I'm gonna wear a mask because the dust from this stuff is really bad to breathe in, and usually when you're mixing concrete, it goes everywhere. So here we go. You want to scrape the sides of the bucket as you're going, from what I heard on YouTube. Honestly, I think that looks pretty good. Like I know what I'm talking about. Okay. New battery. So I think you're supposed to mix it for 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. Well, I have no more batteries, so let's hope this is good enough.
Everything that I read and watched online said that you pour the concrete out and then you use this little squeegee to basically smush it around and the concrete will kind of self-level. Well, that might work if your squeegee doesn't keep breaking all over the place. And I don't know why it broke, but I didn't have time to fix it because I had to work against the clock because the concrete was drying. And yes, that is stressful to do by yourself with no help. So what I ended up doing was just grabbing a hand trowel, and this seemed to work the best for me. So I would just pour out a little section by section and then get my trowel out and just kind of work it around as best as I could. And then once you're done getting the concrete, basically like the first layer done, you take a little broom and you rake it over the top of the concrete. And this just adds a little bit of texture and grip so that people don't slip when the concrete's wet. But I couldn't reach all the way over to the edge of the door with the broom. So I had to run into the house with wet concrete on my shoes because yes, of course I did step in the concrete, and then I had to kind of like lunge as far forward as I could to get the broom over there. It was so stressful, and I think it would have been easier if I had someone there to kind of like hold me while I lunged over the edge. But basically I was able to get it done, and then on the edge of the concrete, like the vertical step, you just kind of also hand trowel that out, and then you use a little hand brush to kind of get that same texture as on the top of the concrete.
Okay, now I'm gonna just try to clean this part up here. I think I can just put dirt over it, but oh my gosh, don't do that. Don't flick it, Dawson. Okay, I just finished installing everything and cleaning up all the tools. Wow, that was really a lot more stressful than I thought it was gonna be, mostly because I didn't realize I wouldn't be able to reach the whole way with the broom just from standing over here. So if I do this again, I probably would just honestly, I don't even know, like just do it in sections. Okay, so it is drying and I'm gonna come back in like an hour or two and check on it. I'm gonna go eat something, but definitely it would be helpful to have a second person, because when you're brushing the concrete, you want to wipe off the brush in between each stroke with the water. So I was like lunging to pull the concrete with the brush, running over here to put the water on, and then running back over here to lunge again. And then I would have to go inside to try to like reach from the other angle. And then I was running inside to clean up all the concrete I got on the floor. So it was super messy, but it's looking pretty good so far. I hope when it dries, it's a little bit more consistent. But I will keep you updated, and I can officially check this off of my DIY resume. So here we go.
After letting the concrete dry, I got to work putting on some new decorations, some new plants, and a new doormat on this porch, and that really just makes it feel so much better when you're walking up here. Maybe someday I could do like a little mini bench project, but for now I just got a little table where people can put packages on or food deliveries, and it honestly just feels like a whole new house when you're walking up. And yes, I did paint the door black during this project. It used to be dark blue. Do you remember that kid's book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie? Well, that's basically me with these DIY projects. And once I got started working on the front porch, I realized I needed to do something about the garage door, because I just couldn't handle it being a different color white than the rest of the house. It was driving me absolutely wild. So I decided to paint it.
There's a big dent right here in the door, so I'm gonna see if I can go on the inside and push it out and make it not look like that. Here's where it's dented. Let's see if I can push it back. Oh! That was pretty easy.
I've used this specific paint sprayer a couple times at my friend's house, and I really liked it, so I just ended up getting it for myself. But I think it's a super easy, beginner-friendly paint sprayer, which is key. I've never painted a garage door before, so this was completely new to me, but I basically just poured some primer into my paint sprayer. And a little tip on picking out your primer: if you're painting a dark color, I would go for a gray primer, and if you're painting a light color, I would go for a white primer. I wanted to paint my door a color called Urbane Bronze, so I went with a darker color for the primer and basically just kind of poured that in the sprayer, went with a quick coat all the way around the door. And you don't need to do 2 coats of this, or at least I didn't, and it seems to be okay. But with your sprayer, one thing that's important is to just make sure that you are making sure that the paint sprayer nozzle doesn't tip like 45 degrees when you're going towards the bottom or the top. You want to make sure that you yourself are moving with the sprayer so that it's getting a consistent spray onto the door, if that makes sense. So I ended up doing 1 coat of primer and then 2 coats of the Urbane Bronze color, and this completely transformed the outside of the house. It looks so much better. After I got that door painted, I decided to paint the trim black to match the trim around the front door. And then I decided that because I was painting the garage door, now I had to paint the front door, because how could I have a garage door that's Urbane Bronze and then have a front door that is black? It just didn't make any sense to me. And like I said, this is an If You Give a Mouse a Cookie house, and so now we're painting the front door. Painting a front door is honestly one of the easiest DIY projects you can do. Start by cleaning it with a wet microfiber towel to get all the dirt off, and then cover up your door with some plastic. If you live somewhere with a lot of bugs and not a screen door like me, you will thank me later, trust me. And then if you have a wood door, you might have to like sand it and then do primer, but my door is already painted, so I just basically, after getting it all cleaned, got ready to put my paint on. It's honestly so easy. I did immediately spill it onto the floor because that is completely on brand with me, and then I decided to cover the floor to prevent any further spills. And I do like all the little intricate details on the door with a brush just by hand. And then all the flat parts of the door, I use a high density mini foam roller to get those looking really good. I ended up doing, I think, 2 or 3 coats on this door, and it honestly looked perfect. It's just a little bit harder when you're covering black with any color, because I feel like you have to do more coats just to get it completely covered. Watching this footage back is so funny because it just looks like an 80s music video with this shadow against the plastic. I just can't look at it. It's too much. It's too good. All right, here's a quick refresher of the project. Before I started, the paint was flaking all over the porch. The door was just really dirty, beat up, and the paint was flaking there too, actually. And then the garage door just was dented and didn't match the rest of the house. And here it is now. Now, obviously, paint can do wonders to your house, whether that's your garage door, your front door, or the actual house itself. But honestly, I do think the star of this renovation is the concrete redo on the front porch. Getting rid of that red paint just really made it feel so much nicer walking up to the house, and I will report back on how well this concrete holds up over time. I kind of wish that I had done a sealer on it, and I might still do that just to really protect it for the long run, but this turned out so much better than I was expecting and really didn't cost that much money to do. It's honestly wild how much of a difference that made to the front porch of the house. And if you like DIY projects and home renovation, make sure to like and subscribe, because I'm actually renovating my entire 1970s home by myself and sharing the journey with you here on YouTube. So make sure to subscribe because you don't want to miss any updates from that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.